Hello and welcome back to another episode of Only a Bag in Italy Travel Podcast. I'm Nathaniel Mellor.
And I'm Darcy Melton.
And today we're going to be talking about tips for traveling in the rainy season, which we were going to title it something about like winter or spring, but honestly, it's just tips for traveling in the rain in general, which happens year round, thankfully.
And particularly in these months, it is January now, right? In January, February, and obviously springtime in December, it gets extra rainy,
Yes,
but certainly it
sure.
rains all the time.
Well, if you're coming for Carnivale, which will be in February, I think late January, early February, or anything else that's happening, but I know that's a big one that has a lot of visitors to Venice specifically, but we also have a Carnivale episode out if you'd like to check out where else there are Carnivales. But that is a good time because it is rainy and wet, and it is a all-weather event, so it's not necessarily postponed if it's raining. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been following along, who has been following the podcast, who has been leaving reviews. We deeply appreciate it. It helps us get found by other people and spreads the joy, I hope, or at least information, if nothing else. And we really appreciate it. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we have an Instagram account. Could not remember what that's called. At Only a Bag Podcast, where you can send us messages or comments, questions, concerns, anything about your upcoming trip. We also have a website, onlyabag.com, where you can do the same. You can also find a whole bunch of articles that we wrote on various aspects of traveling in Italy. Lastly, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/onlyabag, where you can send us a donation. Or if you prefer, if you'd like to use our affiliate links to book your trip through Booking or through book a tour through Viator or get your guide or something like that, you can use our links in the description or on our website, and we will get a small commission from the company. We appreciate so much your support.
Yes, thank you so much.
And without further ado, jumping on into it, tips for traveling in the rain in Italy.
Yeah, and this, I know it sounds super simple. We all know how to exist in the rain, but just like our last episode where we talked about traveling with a group, there's certain things that can almost seem so mundane that you don't think about them, but like traveling with a group, setting expectations, traveling in the rain is something that you do have to think about ahead of time.
Yes, and it's something... We're avoiding putting anybody on blast here. No, I'm kidding. We just went traveling with my mother and her partner, as we mentioned in the last episode, and it was raining. That was a very well-established fact going into the trip, and we knew it would be raining. So Darcy had the brilliant idea of bringing an umbrella for herself and myself.
Here's the thing. I don't have a rain jacket that works effectively, so I had to bring an umbrella.
True. You have a big wool jacket that's pretty good at repelling.
Wonderful giant wool jacket with a hood, and it's very long and wonderful. And it repels the rain quite well. But if I'm in a very heavy rainstorm, it's getting soaked.
Yes.
So I brought an umbrella just in case.
And so I brought an umbrella because I thought, you know what, it's better than one umbrella is two umbrellas. I also brought a rain jacket. And this kind of the first part of this is going to essentially be about rain jacket versus umbrella versus poncho, because something I see a lot on Reddit actually specifically on Italy travel or anything about people coming to Italy is, packing lists, and everybody recommends a rain jacket, almost to the point it's become kind of comedic, where people are like, I don't understand how rainy it's going to be. Like, what do you mean rain jacket? Like, is this a squall? What am I walking into here? And actually my mom's partner brought a rain jacket and realized, somewhat unfortunately, the morning that it started raining, that it was not as waterproof as it used to be.
It's like the DWR had washed off at that point and was doing absolutely nothing to keep the rain off.
He was just soaked, the poor guy. And so that's something also, like maybe the first thing, just to throw that out there as a consideration. If you are bringing a rain jacket, just double, triple check. Go stand in the shower. Make sure it works still. Because it is the worst time to find out something is not waterproof is when you absolutely need it to be 100% waterproof. But we wanted to talk about rain jacket, I guess, mainly rain jacket and poncho versus umbrella. And I think it's, again, kind of simple because, or maybe not simple, silly, because in the States, or not in the States, I'm assuming you're from the States, wherever you're from, you might already have like, well, I use an umbrella all the time, or I use a rain jacket all the time, or the rain doesn't really bother me because, either you're used to it or because you're in a car all the time or whatever it is. So I think you've kind of come up with these ways of avoiding it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you're at home, it's so normal to be able to number one, schedule yourself differently. If you know it's going to rain and you have an appointment or something, and you have to walk there, either maybe you reschedule or you bring an umbrella or you take your car or you're going to be at home a lot of the time. But when you're traveling, you're out of your hotel room most of the time. And so it's harder to avoid the rain.
Yes, that's I think a big part of it.
And I know you and I had really, like up until this point, encouraged people to not bring an umbrella, to bring a rain jacket. And I kind of defaulted to a rain jacket keeps off the rain. And in this last trip to Naples, I have completely changed my opinion. I highly recommend an umbrella. It doesn't mean that you have to bring an umbrella. That's a really cumbersome thing to bring in your suitcase.
If you have a really good collapsible one,
Yes.
maybe, but otherwise you can buy one here for
Absolutely.
€5.
And I want to caveat this, or not caveat, but I just want to note, Nathaniel and I tend to not recommend that people plan on buying lots of stuff while you're here, especially if your plan is to leave it. That is not a sustainable way of traveling. But with an umbrella, if you buy it here, obviously you don't have to put it in your suitcase, and you can leave it at your hotel. You can donate it, essentially, leave it somewhere for someone else to use when you can't bring it back in your suitcase, essentially, you know?
Yes. And I think actually on that note too, sometimes, as we found out, the hotel we stayed at was very cute and very small and very like family run, but they also had a bunch of umbrellas to use. So that is something to consider. If you happen to know for a fact that you are coming into a rainy period, you can reach out to your hotel and say, hey, is there any chance you guys have umbrellas that we can use while we're there? Because I think that was the entire point of this hotel. It's like, don't buy a umbrella and then chuck it. Like,
Right.
At least give it to somebody, or give it to donate it somewhere, or leave it here if you want to leave it somewhere, and then we'll have it for somebody else to use.
And if you're surprised by the rain and you're staying in a hotel, you can certainly ask the front desk if they have umbrellas to use. Like this hotel that we stayed at, they might have their own, they're branded, or they might, like we said, they might have one someone left behind, so just double check that if you want to before you buy one. But getting back to other options, let's talk about rain jackets and ponchos versus umbrellas.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest thing I wanted to bring up is that we saw a really good example of the use case, if that makes sense. My mom brought a very nice rain slicker, I think a company called Rains, Rains. They just make rain gear.
We're not sponsored by them.
We're not sponsored by them.
It's just
yeah.
the kind of jacket that she has.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think is just in case, because if you recognize the company, it's a lot more like what you'd imagine like a fisherman in the, I don't know, mid 1900s to wear. It's very
but cute.
Very cute.
It is cute, yeah.
But it's very much a rain slicker. Like no water is getting in. It's the seams are not sewn, but they're welded.
It's got a great hood too that somehow like comes out over your head.
Has a little beak,
yeah,
kind of thing.
Great.
So she was very happy. She was like, "It's fine. This is great. I have a full rain jacket, and it goes down to like her knees. So it was like she's not getting wet at all. But it was still I think the realization was for me. I noticed is the umbrella does also keep most of the bottom half of you dry. If you don't have a rain jacket that does so as well, in terms of walking into the rain, you're still going to get your feet and probably your ankles wet, especially because you're splashing around. But my rain jacket only goes down to my waist. And so while I really like my rain jacket, it also makes it so my pants are soaked entirely because all the also water drips off the rain jacket and then onto my pants. So it's not like that useful ultimately. I also realized too, it's one of those things where if it's a sprinkle, I don't know. It's one of I think when we were even going, it was like if it's a downpour, I'm using an umbrella either way. Like the rain jacket's not nearly enough, and if it's a sprinkle, I might just use the umbrella or the rain jacket. But at the same time, it's 100% chance of rain, and so it doesn't look like it's going to be a sprinkle. Which I know it sounds like I'm explaining how rain works to y'all. I apologize. It's just one of those things where I realized that having the ability to literally get yourself out of the rain was huge. And I think every time we've traveled before, we're just like, rain jackets are fine. I also noticed that with phones, you and I had no problem taking our phone out to look for directions somewhere. Whereas the two of them, even with my mom with her really nice rain jacket, can't take out her phone and hold it in the pouring rain to look for directions somewhere. So it did kind of become a bit of a cumbersome, not even cumbersome. It just became not as
it became
useful.
Something else to think about.
Yes.
Having to, pull over, get under an awning to get your phone out, to even take a minute so that there's not rain beating down on your head. I think the couple days before leading up to our trip, I was thinking about, should I bring an umbrella? What jacket should I bring? All these things. And I kept saying, well, we're not going to be out in like a major downpour. Of course, we're not going to be outside. And a lot of our second day there was a major downpour. I mean, it was fully raining most of the day. And I really underestimated how important it would be to have an umbrella. And I was remarkably warm. I mean, again, like we said, I think in the last episode, it wasn't that cold. It was in the 50s. So I didn't have to bring out my giant jacket. But I was just dry, and it was great. Going into a shop, I could just put the umbrella down, stick it in the bin, and I felt normal compared to what I saw a lot of other people in their rain jackets feeling somewhat uncomfortable if dry underneath the rain jacket.
Well, I was thinking too, because you're getting blasted with air from the heater or whatever, and if you're already warm and dry, getting blasted with the air, it just feels nice. If you're wet,
yeah,
and it does, like, the warm air doesn't feel that warm, so it's kind of like, I'm just getting blasted with air and I'm freezing now. And the biggest point I think we wanted to make an episode around this is it tremendously affected our outlook on the trip,
yes,
or our experience on the trip. Because I think you and I had a great time, even though we were with them 95% of the time. We had lunches and dinners and walked around together. You and I had so much better a time because we were dry and warm the entire time. Whereas my mom's partner was, I mean, I love him dearly. We were so resistant on getting an umbrella until like well into the second day of rain, when he was finally like, okay, I'm going to get an umbrella. And I'm like, we could have done this
But
sooner.
essentially it came down to the point where they had to not necessarily miss out on an activity, but they needed to go back to the hotel to dry off, to change clothes. But you and I, because we didn't have to, just had the opportunity to stay out. So it's something important to think about whenever you have a limited time somewhere.
Exactly. It's also going back to packing, and as we're going to get into our next point, is extra clothing. You and I were like, I mean, yes, the bottom of our pants did get kind of wet. Mine did not. I wore wool pants that were just very, I guess, not waterproof at all, but just it flicked the water off very nicely, so they were mildly damp.
And to be specific, these are old school, sort of like, they're suit pants.
Something like that.
Like a business suit. They're not like fancy or anything particularly, but they're old school wool pants. It's not like you were wearing like wool hiking gear.
Oh yeah, no, I found some pants at the market that had like I need to find suspenders for them because it has all the buttons for suspenders, but they were just kind of heavy wool pants that I thought was going to be interesting to wear, and they ended up being really nice just for the fact that it was so like, I didn't realize how waterproof, quote unquote, they would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, it was much more cotton pants and.
Yes, my pants were soaked for about a foot and a half up from the ground. So some people travel extra light. We were there for 2 nights, and I think some people would be able to essentially just get by with one outfit. I brought 2 pairs of pants, essentially one for travel days and one for the day being out all day. And I'm so glad I did, because I was able to let those other pants that got super soaked pretty much dry overnight, but I had another pair, I think, to wear out to dinner that night and to wear the next day. I wasn't just stuck with wet pants, which would have been incredibly uncomfortable.
Which, again, I think my mom's partner only brought 1 pair of pants because he was thinking, again, we're there for 2 nights. I'll wear the same pair of pants it's not bad to, it's whatever. And again, he's like, I have a rain jacket. It was just that thought, again, where we had the same information, but different responses to the information, which made you and I have a better trip, I think. And I only mentioned that too, and that we wanted to do an episode around this specifically because it is sometimes the smallest thing. We've already talked about in the past how, like, sometimes not having water or not eating when you're hungry can affect the trip, because all you remember is like, I really enjoyed Rome, but man, I was hungry the whole time. And I think being wet is just, especially in the winter where you're violently shivering the whole time and you're just wet, and people are like stopping to look at a church, and you're like, oh my God, either we're going into the church to get dry or we're going to keep moving because I'm getting soaked standing here. And I think,
but like you said, even the slightest breeze, like when you're cold, it just makes you cold.
Yeah, just frozen throughout.
Absolutely. Another tip is that, so my boots, which I also found at the market, Doc Martens, they're not the vintage ones, so not as good, but nice little fur lining, fake fur. Anyways, I had nice warm boots that kept my feet dry, but also I brought extra socks. And I'm really on board with not overpacking, which is so hard when you're going somewhere for a week or more. I realize that. But if I'm considering the rain, there are certain things like having one extra pair of pants. So like two pairs of pants for 3 days. It was great. A few different pairs of socks in case mine did get wet. Keeping your feet dry and warm is incredibly important.
I think we talked about that too after our trip to Venice, which was not only super cold. I think it did rain once or twice because I remembered we were talking about, well, one, how waterproof your jacket was then, but also we did kind of frequently change socks because of that, because we were so nervous that wet socks and walking around all day would kind of create like problems, just if nothing else, just chafing in very, very cold feet. So we did I think we brought a number of extra pairs of socks just for the frequently changing. We often recommend wool socks. Doesn't have to be really nice wool socks. It could just be Costco brand, Kirkland wool socks or whatever it is. But something just kind of cheap and usable, because it does keep your foot a lot warmer when it's
Absolutely.
wet. And again, these seem like kind of simple things, but it's just, I'm thinking when we're in the States, when we're home and it's raining, we're in the car and you make a mad dash to the cafe, the grocery store, the house, whatever it is, work. So we're not really spending that much time out in the rain. But I think as soon as you do, you start to realize like, wow, I'm getting really cold. My feet are really cold. My boots have filled up with water. My pants are frozen. I don't know if my phone still works anymore. And it's easy to kind of have things start going really wrong really quickly. And you're just like, it was rain.
Yeah.
When has rain ever been a problem for anybody?
Yeah.
So that is something.
And I think keeping yourself baseline comfortable brings down the stress of a trip. 'Cause I always say traveling is stressful. Things are going to be stressful. But if you keep yourself comfortable, that's one thing that you don't have to think about,
Absolutely. And moving, kind of like on that, we talked about boots, you talked about your boots, is the waterproof / water resistant boots or shoes. And I think that was something else you and I and my mom, all three of us had waterproof or water resistant, I will say, footwear. I had boots that were again, I say the waterproof versus water resistant. They're not sealed with anything. There's no Gore-Tex that makes a little rain boot sort of thing. It just makes it difficult for water to get inside. They're also the leather on my boots and yours are sealed with some kind of wax, I think. This can be done if you just have a regular pair of leather shoes or something, if you just want to bring those and seal them. I only say that because with sneakers, unless you have waterproof sneakers specifically or water resistant sneakers specifically, they will get wet. And again, I have a pair of sneakers that are like 90% mesh for some reason.
Yeah.
They're great in the summer, but they are terrible in the winter. And when they get wet, it's somehow like, even though they're mesh, they stay wet the entire time. They stay wet for days. I don't understand it. So I mentioned that because again, it was interesting. I'm like, not to put my mom's partner on blast, but it was one of those things of like, it was interesting how you and I, we've talked about this before. We don't feel like we're not like, oh, we're traveling professionals. We do this all the time and we're old pros at this. It's just like, yeah, when it's raining, sometimes it helps to be over prepared for rain because it's such a simple thing that can ruin a trip. And I realized he had sneakers that were okay. They're like hiking sneakers, but they weren't water resistant. They had mesh and stuff in it. So his feet were already kind of cold, and then it starts raining and it's just, again, it was like miserable after miserable after miserable. And I think he prepared in the sense of bringing a rain jacket, but didn't really want to get an umbrella because like I have like 1,000 umbrellas. I don't want another umbrella to bring home. And it kind of came this thing of like, I get it, but man, this is like, and of course we offered the umbrella and it was the sort of like, no, you guys brought the umbrella. It's smart for you to keep the umbrella. I was not arguing that much. I was like, no, you take it. No, I was like, that makes sense. We did warn everybody before leaving that we should bring umbrellas for this.
So footwear.
Yes, I'm getting off topic. I apologize.
I do highly recommend, especially in the wintertime, a decent pair of boots, which you might be bringing anyway. I want to clarify, not rain boots. I mean, if you have a pair of rain boots that you absolutely love and you just wear them all the time,
bring those.
I love
sure.
it. Yeah. Like that sounds quirky and fun. I love that for you. But if you're bringing boots anyway, I just do recommend that they are ones that are good for wet conditions and for cold, and to even wax up or put some fat. Just make sure that they're ready. I say that because I have a trusty pair of vintage Doc Martens that are so old and used now. I do have to be quite careful about making sure that I take care of them. So I re-wax or put fat on them every season, really. And with my new pair, which are not vintage, they're still great. No, but they have been, like Nathaniel said, they have been waxed, so they I stepped, I stepped in so many puddles just because I was paying attention to like not fall, because I feel like I'm quite fall prone.
I love that. I'm a fall risk. I have a little bracelet and everything.
I don't know. I just tend to fall sometimes. And I didn't want to fall into a puddle, but I did step into a couple of puddles, and it was so nice to have the confidence that the water would fall right off of my boot and my feet would stay dry. My pants were wet, but my feet were dry. So
And
it was
actually,
fine.
no, that's the thing, because when it's dry, you notice there's a lot of different in, like when there's a stone missing, or when there's a stone that's just lower than the other ones, or I mean, I know because so much of the road is not asphalt or something, where it might be your sidewalk is not asphalt or concrete as it might be in the States, just for example. So it like, at least then you're like, oh, that looks like a hole, I'm going to avoid it. But I think here it's just there's so much natural variation for the stones that sometimes it's just like, oh, that's just a little, that's a lower stone that's kind of wet. And then some like, oh, that's just a 3-inch hole.
Yeah.
That's just a hole. That's just a hole.
Yeah.
That's a 6 centimeter just hole. And that's easy to step your foot into. And again, if it's like you're just not wearing rainproof shoes or water
If you
resistant
step with a
shoes,
sneaker into that puddle, you got a wet foot for the whole day.
which is not to say, I mean, like mine I definitely got my feet wet occasionally here and there, but not nearly as bad as it would have been wearing sneakers.
Yeah,
Is all that to say. And in the summer, I wanted to add to just obviously this would be, I would not recommend bringing boots. It's just,
No.
if it's the summer, I'd recommend just bringing sandals for this. And then if you just feel weird because all the street water is all over your toes, to just rinse off your feet in one of those like fountains or something like that, or those water fountains for water, not like an actual fountain.
Right.
Not a
Not a decorative fountain, but the ones for drinking water.
for drinking water, because that way we notice in the summer when it is a rainstorm, it's like you're wearing shorts almost half the time anyway, and you're wearing sandals, so if the bottom half of you can get wet, then it's not that much of a big deal. But in the winter, where it's like that is a big deal, that I don't know, it changes it in a way that I didn't realize.
And as far as packing goes, whenever I bring my big boots, I wear them on the plane. You wear your heaviest footwear on the plane with you. I tend to do that, even though it's a little uncomfortable. It makes packing so much easier. And in the summertime, it's completely impractical to bring a
Yes.
giant pair of boots unless you are someone who like is hiking specifically and you're bringing your specific hiking boots. That I feel like would be the outlier. But otherwise, there's no reason to bring a giant pair of boots in the summertime.
Yeah, summer in Italy, you'll never need boots.
No.
Sneakers barely. Like
Yes.
sandals are a great purchase.
Sandals, they can get wet, especially.
And actually, kind of on this note, is we notice with luggage and backpacks.
Yes. So I highly recommend always to bring hard-sided luggage, not soft-sided luggage. Just in general, it keeps your stuff way more protected through flights and everything like that. But when you're traveling through the rain, your luggage, if it's soft-sided, your clothes on the inside are very likely to get wet if your luggage gets wet. So I highly recommend hard-sided luggage in general, but especially for rainy season.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And then if you haven't purchased a backpack yet, if you're looking at backpack specs, I recommend keeping an eye out for backpacks that come with a rain cover or one that you can buy, fairly inexpensive rain cover to go on. Nathaniel has a great REI backpack that came with a rain cover. That's the backpack that I'm going to be getting when I get a new one. Mine's going to be a nice plum color. But my backpack
Not vintage.
Not vintage, no. I try to buy used and vintage, but the backpack that I currently have doesn't have a rain cover. So if we're traveling somewhere and we have laptops, they both go in his backpack so we can put the rain cover on it if it's raining.
And that's exactly it. It's just simply that we also just want to mention, we didn't mention like duffel bag or anything, because we don't ever recommend bringing a duffel bag for a variety of reasons, but it's terrible. And it's not a great bag for traveling with, truthfully. But if you're bringing a backpack, if you don't have one, if you have a backpack but it does not have a rain cover, I think Osprey and a few other backpacking brands do make generic, like the REI cover I have, it doesn't just fit my backpack. It fits just
That's true.
range of their, I think, 30-liter
It's
backpacks.
generally backpack shaped.
So that's something that you can also look for as well. If you're just like, well, I think there's a few of those outdoor stores will have something that just fits the backpack that you probably already have, but if you are, as you mentioned, buying something specific, that is kind of worth it. I mean, just again, it's these, so even if you have an umbrella, like I was having trouble keeping my backpack and me under the umbrella. And what was happening more frequently is the water would hit the umbrella and run off onto the backpack,
Yeah.
which is like the worst of the two options, because then it was just getting extra wet on this one line. And if that was thankfully it wasn't the line where the zipper is, but if it was, that's just, water seeping in through that. So the same thing with the hard-sided luggage. There's no real other way to keep that dry. Water will get through the zipper, unfortunately, but it is better than nothing. And we've noticed when we travel with hard-sided luggage in the rain, some things get wet for sure, but it's not.
But it's not soaked.
It's not soaked.
There's
And the
some
soft-sided
sprinkles that come through the zipper, like you said. Yeah, but it's not soaked.
And with that soft-sided, we've noticed it does. There's like a layer of water at the top of it, and it just kind of makes it all, I don't know, uncomfortable. Nobody wants to start a trip with wet clothing.
Absolutely not. That seems awful.
And I think moving just more to the other last two quick notes. One, that sometimes extreme rain, I'm sure you're aware, can affect public transportation.
Yes.
This was just more of a tip, actually, because of literally yesterday in Rome, I think they had a big rainstorm, and some parts of the city are a little lower than other parts. So certain intersections were flooded out completely. Cars were sort of trapped in the intersection. I'm not sure how. I'm assuming. My other point that was kind of related to this is that people suck at driving in the rain in Italy for some reason. I do love people dearly in this country.
People also suck in Savannah at driving in the
That's a good
rain.
point.
They're potentially worse there than here, but a lot of people aren't good at driving in the rain.
And that could be it. Maybe that's honestly like everybody needs to take the driving test during the rain. Is that maybe the thing? Because people like forget that when it's raining, like you can't go as fast or you will slide, or as we found in Rome, that the giant puddle of water might submerge your car and then you have no car. Like you can't, it's not like if you go fast enough, you'll get through the 4 feet of water. It's 4 feet of water. You drove through a river. So I say that too, because if you happen to be driving around, especially, just consider you do you. You be super safe. Stay in that right lane. Pull over if you need to pull over. Put on the flashes if you need to put on the flashes. Go slow if you need to go slow. All the speed limits should be reduced anyway in the rain. But I only want to mention that in big cities, especially, there'll be like the buses might have trouble running their same routes. I don't think there's too much issue. I know like New York subway system will have, like when it's really flooding, they'll have to shut down certain subway routes because the tracks are flooded. I don't know how frequently that happens in Rome. I imagine it happens at some point. I have no idea. We have not at least seen that, but just simply to say, if you happen to be traveling during a very wet season, sometimes they will cancel certain buses, and especially between towns and stuff. I mean, we went during a kind of a stormy season between Siena and San Gimignano, and there was a tree, like literally must have been within minutes before we had arrived. As a tree basically had fallen into the right lane. Thankfully, the bus driver saw it and swerved into the left lane, but it basically must have just happened because there's no vehicles, there's no lights, there's nothing to warn you. So just something to keep in mind is that people don't drive well in the rain.
And also trains still function in the rain, but they might go slower because it can be obviously quite dangerous if the tracks are really wet. So that's just something to keep in mind for if you have a tight deadline or for contacting your hotel, we're going to be a little bit late because of the rain, stuff like that. Things may take a little longer. So I recommend that you do your best to relax.
Yes, that is a big one. Things will take a little longer. And for some reason too, there's like that when everyone's wet and then you step into some place that's warm, like the ticket office or whatever it is, and then it gets really humid and everybody starts feeling panicky because they can't breathe. That happens a lot, I've noticed. I know this is sounds like a really specific scenario, but I've just noticed that like on trains, because they're hot and everyone's wet in the rain, so it gets like really steamy, people tend to panic more. But just something to kind of keep that in mind is that, things will go slower. Things just a little more humdrum in the rain, which I guess almost brings us to the next and last point that I have or that you have actually was your point, is to try to enjoy the rain.
Yeah, I would say do your best to enjoy the rain and just accept it as part of your trip, because if it's going to be raining for any part of your trip, but especially if you come in the wintertime, it might be raining for your whole trip. I don't want that to ruin this incredible experience for you. So if you can kind of just accept it as a part of what's happening and move through it, your mentality can massively change your experience, No.
And I think we've mentioned this the previous episode, that you and I both very much enjoy traveling during the rain because it's a different feeling. There's definitely that, like, I don't know, there's that sort of, I know people talk about Paris in the rain a lot, but there is a Naples or Rome or Siena, Florence, any of these old towns you mentioned, any old cities, anything that's already a very beautiful city. Venice in the rain is gorgeous. It's just, I mean, it's very serene. It's very peaceful. And if you're inside, obviously it's still really lovely, but you might miss some of it. So it's just we recommend that, it's making it part of your trip, enjoying it.
And that's not to say that it makes that if you change your mentality, everything becomes more convenient.
It does not.
It does not. Things are still slippery. I mean, I highly recommend, like I said, an umbrella, but I also do get quite panicky because I am about the same height as everyone else in Italy, and all of our umbrellas bump against each other when we're in packed areas. So things can be stressful. Things can be anxious. Like we said with transportation, things can get slower. So it's not like changing your mind about something instantly makes everything better, but when you relax into it, it can make things just go more smoothly.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And that really is, I mean, that's a great place to end it.
Oh, one note about ponchos.
Sure.
If you're looking to, if you're here in Italy and you get stuck in the rain, you see people selling umbrellas and ponchos. I now am recommending that you buy an umbrella if you don't have one. The inexpensive ponchos don't do a whole lot to keep the rain off at all. I mean, they blow around. Nathaniel has a ridiculous video of me in Rome once in a wild downpour of rain and wind. I had a little poncho on, nothing. It was soaked through. It came through all the holes. Nathaniel has it's like an industrial poncho.
It really is. It's very, yeah.
It's got like welded sides. It's from Decathlon here. It's just like a sporting store.
And it works pretty well.
So if you have a hardy poncho that you love, that's a great idea to bring. But I don't recommend you purchasing, the like €2 ones that are flimsy trash bags with a bunch of holes in them.
That's a great point actually that we didn't touch on at the beginning. But a poncho is, I think, it's almost a good middle ground. Like it's almost better than a rain jacket. Mine is fantastic because it is also really big. That's the biggest.
And it can go over your backpack if you need it.
It goes over my backpack. It goes down to my knees. It goes over other jackets and stuff. So it's good in the winter. In the summer, I use it frequently because it's nice. It packs up to like nothing. It packs up to this little, I don't know, like softball size package. So it's easy to use it in the summer to kind of just, I don't know, like basically stick in the backpack or if we're going out for the day kind of thing. I can throw it on and I can keep all the phones in my pocket and it keeps one of us at least dry because you don't have a poncho. You have an umbrella.
I have an umbrella, which I highly recommend.
Well, and I think it's the thing. It's just more of like if you're like I'm a bit more of a low, kind of like a low footprint kind of traveler. Like I don't really want to bring an umbrella, even a collapsible one. I prefer something simpler. A poncho is a good, I guess, middle ground, a nice poncho instead of a rain jacket. I only say that too because, again, this is just simply from our experience of normally I'd say yes for the rain jacket, but after having been in a real downpour with one, it felt lackluster. I was like, oh, this is good for like a sprinkle, but if it's a sprinkle, then it's like, I don't know. I mean, it almost felt like it was not unnecessary in a sprinkle. Like as it just never really occurred to me how much the rest of me is getting wet in a rain jacket. So I'm like, yeah, it keeps some of me dry, but fundamentally I'm still very wet.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge part of it. I think that I learned personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I learned that I love umbrellas.
I love it. That's literally the entire point of this episode, y'all. Buy umbrellas.
Yeah.
We've just invested into the umbrella stock market. So
We haven't though. Is that a thing you can do?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That'd be nice. With all that being said, thank you all so much for listening to 2 strange episodes, but we hope that it's somewhat helpful because we really just learned a lot and we were like, you know what? We should tell
I know
people
it
about
sounds
this.
so mundane, but these things really do make a huge difference. So we just wanted to impart them to you.
Yes. Especially for anybody traveling at any point in the next 3 or 4 months, because this is going to be super important. As it gets back into the summer, it's a little less important, but just anyone coming for off-season, shoulder season kind of traveling, when we were like, oh, bring a rain jacket. Nah, bring an umbrella, buy one here, use it here. It's going to be so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And we hope you enjoy your trip. If it rains, we hope you enjoy it even more.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll talk to you next time. Tanti abbracci.